Yo, what
What's going on, everybody? What's up? What's up? What's up?
B, what's happening, dog?
Yo,
Oh, snap, Zero Cool's in the house.
what up?
And they'll just let anybody up in here. I got B and Zero Cool, goddamn.
Yeah, man, it's a good day. It's a good day. It's a good day. Hope everybody else had a great day.
They know you're gonna be able to make it, man.
Yeah. We got out of training a little bit early, so I'm glad about that. But it was a good training. I learned a lot. I certainly don't want to get super political with anybody or anything, but I know election day is coming up for many states across the country. So if you guys, hopefully everybody's preparing themselves to vote. Doesn't matter who it is that you vote. Well, of course it matters, but the important thing is that you make your voice heard. There's a lot of hard work that goes on across the country to be able to make sure that elections are secure and that as many people as possible have a great experience. So just putting the plug out there to make sure that you guys prep yourselves to vote and whatnot.
Good stuff, B.
Nice.
Let's do some hellos. I got peeps in the live chat. Eddie is here. Shout out to Eddie. Friend of the show, supporter of the channel, Ryan is here. ART24PR is in the house. What up, Al? Rage and Dusty. Artist Dream is here. My brother Ciprione Tex in the house. Rage and Dusty. MS, salute to you guys. Mr. Pratik, good evening to you as well. Maximus, Ohio Rail fan, what up, Tone? Mr. David, Tech Guy 32's in the house. Coming in so polite. Jason D, top of the evening to you. Antoine, what's going on? All right, well, who else we got here? Frankie is here. Up, we got Big Dental in the house. What up, Dental?
Not much, just wrapping up some work stuff. Sorry for being late.
You're not late, man. You're good. I figured you've been busy, so I just throw it out there in case you had some downtime, man.
That's always how it goes. I squeeze in when I can.
Dennis, what's up, man? Zero Cool, what's up? I'm sorry, I didn't even speak to you guys. I'm sorry about that. What's up, guys?
Not much. I'm just always happy to be on the show. Happy to be here when I can. As Sneed was touching on, though, man, life's definitely busy, less and less free time, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. But I'm excited to see what we'll be talking about. I know there was a lot of big news from the quarterly reports that still need to be covered for sure. And I know Sneed's always on that much more closely than I am. So I'm always interested to see how the performance goes, especially, I have a feeling that me and B are going to get into some interesting conversations when we start talking about Verizon tonight.
Oh, man.
Good. Clever. What is up, Clever? I'm not sure. Max Tech Studios. Yeah, we'll get you the link here shortly, man. Josh says Stinky Pink, the subject of the day. Jeez, man. Trex. I mean, we ain't even taken the gloves off yet, man. What up, Donald? Good to see you, man. Sean is here. Austin is in the house. He's hanging out with us tonight. EM Tech is going to be tuning in on his T-Mobile free Wi-Fi on a plane. So shout out to him. Who else? Anybody that I missed? There's Baby Yoda. I was waiting for one of the classic mods. Salute to you, Baby Yoda. Appreciate you, man. All right, good stuff here. I'm going to go ahead and put the image of the night here for you guys. And it'll be this. And we'll do some other visuals, but we'll start with this one, right? The goats of all goats had their earnings conference today. You hear that, B? The goat of all goats. There's the sweaty armpit goat himself, bro. Right there in the middle.
Dude, I don't even recognize half the face anymore on that panel. I remember there used to be a dude that had a cowboy hat all the time. I can't think of what his name is.
Braxton Carter.
Yeah, dude, I remember him.
I remember that guy.
John used to always wear the pink Converses.
With so hear me out on this. I know these guys, right? So the one on the right, I don't know. All the way.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Who cares?
Next to him is Ult, the guy who replaced Neville. The guy to the left of him, he started at T-Mobile like 2 years ago or a year ago or something. Then you got Stinky Armpits himself. And then you got That's the new money guy who replaced, I think, Braxton. And then John Fryer, the freaking tool. And then there's what's her face? What's her name? Fanny or something? Callie. Yeah, Callie Fields. And then that's the call dude. He's like the operator or something. I don't know.
Out of these people that were replaced, I'm just curious about something. Were they hired outside of T-Mobile? Like, were they?
No, everything's internal. They're either DT people or they're T-Mobile people.
Well, that's actually a good thing. I was gonna say,
yeah, they keep it all up in there. Yeah.
Well, one of the things that happens with a lot of companies when they get super large, and it's actually been something super interesting that I've been following in some of my case studies for school. Anyway, TLDR, a lot of large companies when they get super large will hire externally to replace their senior leadership, and it ends up resulting in this downward path of losing their identity. We saw it happen with like Microsoft during the Ballmer era, and we saw it happen with let's see, like Sony, Philips, a lot of companies that tragic downfall happens. But that's a side tangent. You have a better point, and I'm sorry for cutting you off.
Yeah, so I think what we should do is let's just go into the details. Let's break it down piece by piece. I do have some statements that I took some notes on from the actual earnings conference. We can do those at the end. Or like we'll kind of split the podcast in half. So the front end will be like the data, the metrics, the network stuff, the the financials, the growth. So we'll do that, the fixed wireless access piece. And then at the end, I think we just chop up some of the statements made by Deceivert and the crew, So let's go ahead and do that, man. The press release came out really early, like 7 in the morning. And I think the earnings call was like 8 or something like that. So it basically got the release like right as the market opened. And I don't know, the stock didn't pop as ferociously as AT&T and Verizon, and I think it's more timing than anything because the market like plummeted today. So I don't know if T-Mobile would have did this call last week, would we have seen a major pop? I don't know. I can't say their earnings were bad. I mean, there's a couple of things that you could argue show some weakness, but financials were pretty strong. Growth was there. Let's look at the pieces here. Okay, so postpaid net accounts plus 386,000. Postpaid net customer adds of 1.2 million. They're raising guidance rest of the year. Postpaid phone customer additions is 850,000. Postpaid phone churn 0.87. Record low for a Q3 ever. High-speed home internet, 557,000. That's best in industry. You guys want to start there with the growth?
Sure.
All right, Dennis. Oh, what's the vibes, man?
I think that when we last spoke, we kind of had the same overall feelings about the growth. Any of their shenanigans that happened recently won't reflect until either Q4 or Q1 to see what the impact is. The home internet ads specifically was definitely a given because there's still a lot of customers for T-Mobile to grow. T-Mobile's 5G UC is very well deployed, and they're being a lot more generous when it comes to selling that fixed wireless product versus AT&T and T-Mobile, versus AT&T and Verizon, excuse me, who are being more selective in the markets that they target. I think that the raising of guidance is fair.
Basically, what they're saying, Dennis, is Q4 is going to be bigger, right?
Bigger than this quarter?
Than what they expected.
Bigger than what they expected.
Yeah, because by saying they're raising guidance, postpaid net customer additions at 1.2 million. So they're basically saying whatever they were projecting for Q4, they're going to up the ante a little bit. So to me, it's like they're basically saying they're going to probably increase or go over by like 30-40%.
I think it's possible if they run some very aggressive promotions for Black Friday. I mean, Black Friday and the holiday season is usually a really big win for all carriers across the board. I don't think there's ever really been a time where any carrier suffered. So maybe they're planning for a big holiday season. Maybe they're getting more inventory, not having to deal with any inventory constraints like they did during like the pandemic with devices and stuff. And maybe they have some promotions up their sleeve that we don't know about. But I guess we'll just have to wait and see.
All right, let me get you in here, B. Have at it.
They did what we expected. You know, they definitely grew, like they always do. To Dennis's point, I'll be interested to see what the growth is in the fourth quarter and into the first quarter. After all of the craziness and all of the announcements that you know that they recently put out, we'll see how that affects their business going forward. But you know, you always expect T-Mobile, at least right now, to experience some decent growth. So they did that. I like to I'd like to point out the churn. Churn's definitely elevated. .87. I guess that's great for them. Congratulations, but it is a little bit elevated. I think that trend is going to probably continue. So, it is what it is there. But T-Mobile's going to be T-Mobile. They're going to grow. They're going to do what they do. So, I don't have too much negative to say, at least not right now at this point in the show, about their numbers. They're finally making a little bit of money. Still the least amount of all three carriers, so they still got a long way to go with respect to that. But at least they're positive on cash flow and whatnot. So that's a good thing.
All right, Zero Cool, jump in.
It seems like every quarter that T-Mobile has, it's always 1 million plus net customer additions. Why? like, what are they adding like their pencils and pens into this equation? Like seriously, like
it's a lot of lines, man. I don't know. They're counting tablets, watches, the whole shebang, right?
My point being, I've always thought this is there seems to be a disconnect between the number of postpaid net customer additions, right, and their Capex, right? And we'll get to probably Capex in a bit here, but still, every time I see these numbers, I'm just like, how do they? Why do they even have a CFO? Like, what's the point? Like, it's just so bad. Like record churn. Come on, like.
Well, I will tell you, when we analyze this churn, Verizon came in at 0.90. T-Mobile comes in at 0.87. AT&T was the only sub 8. I mean, they were the only ones. I mean, it has to mean something that even in a difficult quarter, AT&T thrived.
Right, but I don't know. Their numbers just suck, and I never believe them. So
they do always seem a little bit inflated. I agree. I don't like to point that out all the time, just because I don't want to be that guy. But at the same time, I do agree with Zero Cool. It does leave it leaves me scratching my head sometimes. But yeah, to Sneed's point about the churn, definitely elevated. I know you didn't just speak about this yourself, Sneed, but they lost prepaid lines. There were losses there, so there's definitely some pressure on their business now.
Prepaid, I think.
I'm sorry, I thought you said that they lost prepaid. They lost prepaid.
No, we didn't get to prepaid yet. It was modest gains. I think they added like 20-some thousand.
Okay. I stand corrected.
Yeah, that's how the hell? I mean, they're prepaid, right? What do they have? They have Metro. Metro's
a flat business for them.
Okay,
now.
But my point being is
they retain, but they don't grow. You know what I mean?
Okay, but it's still a prepaid somewhat growth. But how they even had any additions compared to Verizon that has net losses in prepaid?
Well, for anyone that's ever taken
like seriously.
For anyone that's ever taken a statistics course, you'll know that you can make stats say anything and context matters.
Yeah, I have. I have.
But
That's why I don't agree with anything.
I will say that I'm willing to believe the numbers that T-Mobile are reporting to a certain extent. Like, I don't think it's a flat out lie. I just think it's the framing. And I'm willing to believe it was possible only because, even today, they're still running free line deals, right? Like, you can go get Go5G Plus. They got the buy two, get one free, get the third line free deal going on. So I could see it happening. Yeah, I could see it happening.
Let's do this, gents.
Typical.
Let's pivot over to the financials. Let's pivot.
Ugh, even worse.
Service revenues grew 4% year over year. Postpaid service revenues grew 6% year over year, both best in industry. Net income of plus 322% year over year. Diluted earnings per share, $1.82, grew 355% year over year. Both are best in the industry and growth. Core adjusted EBITDA up 12% year over year, best in industry growth and raising guidance. Net cash from operations, $5.3 billion, grew 21% year over year, best in industry growth and raising guidance. Adjusted free cash flows of $4 billion, a 94% year over year bump, best in industry growth and raising guidance. They are doing a $2.7 billion repurchase of common stock. And I guess up to date, I think they've done 14.7 billion cumulatively as of October 20th. So they're actively just making the stock more valuable. Financials look strong. Okay. B, any points of contention, anything worth celebrating? What say you on those numbers?
Good for them. They're finally making some money. It's about time. I heard you talk about the percentages. I'd love to hear what the actual raw numbers were. As far as all those categories are concerned. I don't know. It's difficult to come after AT&T and Verizon when it comes to the financials, because
so here's what I'll say about that. B, to your point, let me say something to that point. Those percentages, they do that because they're not higher than Verizon or AT&T.
I agree, and that's why I pointed it out, and that's why I articulated my point the way that I did. Percentages are cool, and they definitely help, but I want to know what the raw data is, what the raw numbers are, because if it's the 4 billion free cash flow type thing, it sucks to go after Verizon and AT&T because they both blow them out of the water. And that just speaks to what kind of Zero Cool was saying before, and then also what Dennis alluded to as well. How many of the lines that they report, how many of them are free? Like, where is that money? For all of the growth that they have, where is the translation to the financials? And I guess it's a slow haul, and that's fine with respect to that. I'm okay, if that's the answer. It's just gonna take time, fine. But it reinforces the mindset that, man, they are way behind AT&T and Verizon as it pertains to the financials that you need to really become the type of telco that they want to, or at least that they should want to become. They're just really, really far behind, and it's evident.
Yeah, they have the adjusted free cash flow of $4 billion.
Yeah.
Like, what are they doing with the Capex? Are they stuffing it down their pants? Like, what? What is happening at this company? Like, where's the I think one of the problems that I have with and I've always had with their quarterly earnings, is that they're very, 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 very vague about, yes, they made this, they made that, they grew this, they grew that, but they don't tell you where exactly they're going to spend the money at in the future. Not necessarily, not as much as what Verizon and AT&T do. It's a big question mark for T-Mobile. They could say, "Oh, we'll spend this much on Capex," or they don't really give you
in this case we kind of know. So you're gonna have share buybacks,
I'm not.
and
Yeah,
they're going to have a dividend payment now. So that you're
those
talking about
don't count. No
19.
one cares. I mean, except for like
No,
stock
I understand,
people.
Zero Cool. I'm just making sure that everybody is on the same page. You know, they have corporate activities that they are trying to fulfill that goes with the merger promises.
It's all
These were the
fluff.
investor-related promises, man.
That's like one aspect of it. Like it's like they only honor one aspect of that merger promise. Yes, they have to give dividends and stock buybacks, blah blah blah. But what they're supposed to do, at least on the network side, is cover a certain amount of people. As far as like the state obligations, all those
Oh,
agreements that they
sure.
meet.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
that
see
they move
what
to
you're saying.
AGs.
So you want them
They're not.
reinvesting into the
Yes.
company, right?
Yeah.
Not the investor.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay.
Put the money back into the
Well,
network.
I mean, look, we can
Mess
all
up.
come up with things that we would rather see them do with that money. You know, we're the
Yeah.
customers using the network, so we prefer that it was dumped into that.
Yeah, they're putting their money in freaking yada yada commercials. It should be going into the network. Like, what is wrong with these people?
Speaking of yada yada commercials,
wait,
go ahead, Dennis. Go ahead.
I was going to say, before you transition, I just want to make one comment. When I look at this, I have two hats that I wear. My stock investor hat is overall pretty happy with the things. The only thing, though, and the only thing that I question right now at this particular moment is the stock buybacks. I don't think it's necessarily a bad decision as far as like a method for hedging your bets against like inflation and other factors if you think your stock is going to continue to go up. But I do think right now would have been a more beneficial time for T-Mobile to look at corporate bonds because the interest rates are really high. Specifically because I think they're going to be needing to have a lot of cash flow and liquidity here in the semi-near future as we talk about upcoming spectrum auctions and the push for that, because T-Mobile is going to need to have revenue on or money on hand to be able to spend on that. Plus, there's going to be other upcoming, I believe, for them in the semi-near future needs for infrastructure deployment in order to sustain and support future growth. So I think that would have been a better way to spend the money, having sort of like a nest egg in corporate bonds. It hedges off inflation while allows them to have some cash readily available for any larger purchases, since we know that they have an especially large challenge when it comes to taking on debt. And that's my thoughts on that.
Fair enough. EM Tech breaks the seal for Super Chat of the evening. Adjusted Capex is going towards Eugene's massive supply of the Dio for the Bio.
That's so true.
Damn. Thanks for the Super Chat, EM. Appreciate you. I know you're on the road, or I should say in the sky. Shout out to you, man. Thank you. Yeah, so I since we kind of scratched the surface on the prepaid customer additions of 79,000 decreased 26,000 year over year. Prepaid churn at 2.81. Okay, so that's really low churn. What's that?
Okay, that's what it was. So I knew that there was a decrease somewhere that I'd read. So there was just less
Less growth than what they typically have. Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got you. Thank you.
No problem, man. High speed home internet plus 557,000. That's down year over year by 21,000, reflecting continued growth in gross additions driven by increasing customer demand and lower churn, offset by increased deactivations from a customer base that doubled year over year, ending the quarter at 4.2 million subscribers. I think this is worth a conversation, guys. 4.2 million customers on T-Mobile home internet. We are still over 550,000 ads quarterly. Where is the slowdown that cable was predicting? It's not even close. It's not even in sight.
This is what I was alluding to yesterday during the call. This whole fixed wireless access is this, that, and the third. It's not going anywhere. It is a viable product that is here to stay. And Verizon and T-Mobile continue to prove that out quarter after quarter after quarter. It's not going anywhere. So, what were you about to say, Dennis?
Well, Sneed, when we had discussions about like our thoughts on the future of fixed wireless, you and I both acknowledged that we see it hovering, like we see it capping out between the two somewhere around like the 15 million to 20 million customer mark. We're still only in like what, year 2 for T-Mobile when it comes to their fixed wireless product. If that, we're getting on to this tail end of the second year.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of opportunity for them to grow that fixed wireless product on their side, because there's a lot of suburban customers, urban customers, and especially in the rural setting, customers that are either underserved, or by underserved I mean like lacking competition, or had no service at all, even in some of the internet deserts, even in urban environments, that they're able to pick up customers from. The slowdown is probably going to happen though closer to the time that we get around, like, I'm going to say around 2025 with their current additions, like the pace at which they're doing it. I think
But
we see
see, Dennis, I agree with you. Me and you are on the same page. There are like cable co analysts who are predicting the slowdown much sooner, and that's the one thing I don't get. I don't understand where they're coming out with this, because you and me are seeing it the same way.
Yeah, the slowdown's going to happen. It's just a matter of when, not if, in my eyes. Like, and I'm saying it happens around 2025 ish, because I think at that point, the people that were fed up or willing to switch back, or willing to switch, are going to have already done so, because the product is going to be made basically available to all those people that were interested. And at that point, it just starts looking more like your typical internet market, where historically speaking, the incumbent has the majority of the market share, which in most cases the incumbent player is big cable, followed up by the second player that came in, followed up by, in this case, fixed wireless, fighting over that bit. And I think the ratio split for markets that have fixed wireless and have an actual other provider, like a fiber provider, I think it ends up being something like 50% goes to big cable co, 30% goes to fiber provider, 20% between the two fixed wireless providers, and then those people just keep switching around for promos and stuff. That's my thoughts.
I mean, they're going to end up at 7 to 8 million, at T-Mobile. They're basically cutting it in half or just past the midway point. So I still got a 2024 that's going to be really strong. And then 25 is when, you start to see the slowdown. I agree with you there completely. Something that I found interesting and intriguing is the T-Mobile home internet has very high NPS scores, and T-Mobile has been seeing a massive improvement in churn rate for the fixed wireless. So I want to speculate a little bit. I just want to kind of think aloud. What would be causing the T-Mobile home internet to see improved churn, right? One of the things I thought about was the really crappy CPEs that they've been sending to customers. Maybe these two new machines are much better, right? The most recent ones. That could be helping churn. I also think the fact that maybe some of the network stuff, the routing, some of the configurations, some of the experimental standalone 5G stuff, maybe they've kind of ironed out some of those wrinkles. So they're providing a much more reliable and stable experience. Latency and jitter are important when it comes to home internet. Maybe they've kind of worked through some of those things for the home internet service. And, to be honest with you, maybe they're satisfied with the growth and they don't feel compelled to just let anybody willy-nilly get the service and put it on a loaded sector. I want to run that by you guys and see what you think. Zero Cool, what do you think might be kind of contributing to this improved churn of the home internet?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the gateways for sure. I mean, I'm a T-Mobile home internet subscriber, right? I haven't thrown my gateway against the wall yet, so
Which one do you have? The Arcadian?
uh, whatever the black one is.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I do see in 2024 on Q1, I do see them probably going up to 700 to 800,000. Well, actually, I'm sorry, I'm reading this wrong. This is 557,000 decrease, right? Drop.
No. So it's 557,000
increase.
were
Okay.
added this quarter, which
Okay.
is
Yeah.
a
Okay. Okay.
slight
Yeah.
decrease
Right.
year over
Okay.
year.
Yeah. So I see 700 to 800,000 increase. Okay. In Q1 in 2024. The reason why I see that is because the better gateways, the better network. And also, another huge reason why I say that is because their spectrum should be that they won should be assigned and released to them in Q1 of 2024. This is actually going to help their get their towers more modernized on N41 and provide the highest speed internet to more customers. I can guarantee you in those areas with the white space licenses, they're going to market the hell out of it, right? So this is only going to make their high-speed net customer additions go up. I'm hoping it'll be 1 million. That's the thing. Like with more customers that are on the network, the engineers, we see that, right? We can say, okay, so we need to plan for capacity. More sites, more capacity, offload sites, right? So we see that, we keep track of that, right? Those KPIs, right? So it's just, I hope that they have a strong Q1 in 2024, but this is positive. This is good. And here's the thing. Here's the key, right? If the FWA customer additions are 1 million plus, and they can get that number just like how their normal subscriber base is, FWA for the win all day. Then you can no longer say, oh, cable's gonna eat into this or that. No, if they can get 1 million high-speed internet customer additions and get that trend going, that's a solid recipe for success. And Verizon too, but I think, to be honest with you, as far as the FWA side goes, T-Mobile just does it so much better. They're able to get it into a lot of hands of people. Like for me, I couldn't order Verizon FWA. I had to settle, for T-Mobile, right? But they're able to market it better, and they're the network for right now. They're easily, they can easily put up N41 and get that into more customers' hands, right? So I can only expect the growth to keep on growing, and especially in Q1 2024, I think the Band-Aid will be ripped off. They'll have those licenses. They'll put more towers up, more capacity in the network, and that will lead to better subscriber growth on the FWA side.
Zero cool. There's something I want to touch on. You said that T-Mobile does fixed wireless better than Verizon.
Well, I meant marketing better. They market it better. Yes, they market it better.
Yeah, I was gonna say define better, because from a product standpoint,
I will say the product standpoint goes to Verizon. All I'm saying is T-Mobile just markets it better to get in the hands of customers. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree that they're better at marketing it and getting it in customers' hands. I also agree with your sentiments about the gateways making a big improvement, especially because of the external antennas being able to more easily be utilized, which makes a lot of sense for this product. One thing that I also think is impacting the churn outside of the gateways getting improved and so forth is I do think that just the overall network, as you touched on, Sneed, has gotten better. You were talking about some bug fixes or optimizations to routing in the standalone core. That's something I've noticed on the mobile side, at least here in my neck of the woods. One of the particular things specifically that I've seen improved is upload speeds. Historically at my house and the different places I visit, upload would typically be the weakness. That'd be the thing that would fall off the hardest for T-Mobile. But ironically enough, at least all the places I've been to thus far, I'm never getting below 10 on the uplink, which for a home internet user that's trying to do things like work from home or Zoom calls or whatever, those typical use cases would be for a fixed wireless user. I think having that better uplink and stability of the uplink is probably an important use case for that customer. And more bandwidth has become available. There was one thing, though, that I wanted to mention that I didn't think about earlier, and I'm just bringing it up because I've been seeing a lot of comments about, Cable Town and how fixed wireless is doing them in. Ballooning pricing, at least in the case of Comcast, is a non-issue for people that are in the markets where DOCSIS 4 is rolling out. cable's already responding in those places that are getting the upgrades with their, I think they're calling it X plans, where it's essentially priced like Verizon Fios would, where it's like $50 for 300 symmetrical and, you know, insert X speed up after that, and it's just a flat rate. I actually think that's going to be one of the things that kind of hurts T-Mobile a little bit once those problems are fixed for the people that is deployed, and the question is when. But anyway, cool that they're lowering churn. Gateway's probably made a big deal of it. Network improvements alongside of it. Good for them making it a slightly better product. I just hope that sometime soon we can get port forwarding and other things that actually make a home internet product for people that need those use cases, like Verizon does already with their port forwarding.
I know that's I hear people's complaints about, you know, some of the gateways and the routers, like the different settings. They really just want more flexibility. They want to be able to do everything with it. Here, there's also sometimes some compatibility issues with like VPNs with like work. You know, some folks with their private VPN networking tools. So, I mean, I've heard it all, man. So I think the more streamlined they can kind of do some of those things, the better the experience is. You're gonna reduce the churn, you know.
Well, the port forwarding, just to clarify, this is not like a router specific restriction. This is happening at the network level. Like,
No, I understand. I mean, you've told me about that before. I was saying that I've also heard some other things that have been considered to be restrictions or limitations, right?
Gotcha.
So, yeah, so I wanted to add that in there because I feel like it qualifies as something that might keep someone from using the service, you know. Southwest Ohio speed testing with a super chat. Thank you, man. T-Mobile needs to fix prepaid. That churn was awful. AT&T won prepaid for Q3 with... Okay, so we got to make sure we clarify this. T-Mobile's prepaid was actually decent. They had ads. They had net ads. The churn for prepaid was really good at 2.81. AT&T's was only slightly better at like 2.79. And now postpaid's a different story. Those are different numbers, right? Prepaid is a totally different ball game. Verizon prepaid was like almost 5%. It was horrible. The track phone situation is still yet to be fixed. But thank you, Southwest Ohio Speed Testing. Appreciate the super chat. All right, so T-Mobile still the 5G GOAT. 300 million pops covered in the ultra capacity 5G. 3 times the square miles of AT&T, 2 times the square miles of Verizon. Total 5G now covers 330 million pops. That's 98% of America.
That's such a crap lie. Like, what are you smoking?
Hey, man, take it up with them, bro. They're the ones printing this. They're the best in open signal. They're the best in ookla. I didn't see umlaut listed here. I'm not sure why. But anyways, Capex. Did they mention Capex? No, thought they had it in here. Capex, there it is. 9.5 billion.
Yeah, that's under 10.
9.6 billion. Yeah.
Like they said, did they not say we're gonna spend more than 10 billion? And they're
Yeah, I mean
they said that. They say, especially this is on their stupid yearly, what is it? Their yearly review, whatever they had. They had the big old investor conference. They said they're going to spend more than 10 billion. There we go. Another lie. Okay, this is why I don't believe every quarterly, earnings they put out. It's all fake. Where is the above? Where's the 15 billion capex? They will not even break 10 billion, and this is why.
I think they peaked at 13 billion 2 years ago.
That's fine. Just make it over 10, for God's sake. Good Lord, like, what are they saving money for?
So, like, I kind of predicted this. I said when they consumed Sprint, they likely won't ever spend more, as one company than they would have collectively as two companies, right? So, like, Sprint was doing... What was Sprint doing at their peak? 6 billion?
Yeah, 6 to
And then
7,
I think,
yeah.
and I think T-Mobile in their peak was 7 when they had the 600 megahertz. So
Mhm.
that would have been just over 13 billion. So they peaked there and then they never came back. Now
Yeah,
they've regressed to 9 billion.
yeah. What are they doing? Like this is what I don't understand. Okay,
Corporate activities, dog.
their network build out. Okay, is supposed to be done. This is what tells me it's going to be crap because their network build out is supposed to be nationally. It's supposed to be done by 2026. Okay, that's what we designed it for. You can't do that if you're going to spend not more than 10 billion, every single quarter. Like what
Tell
the
you what,
hell? Like
Verizon is sticking to 19 billion.
yes. Why can't
You know,
T-Mobile do
they
something like
like
that?
Verizon added 10 billion dedicated to C-band,
Right.
and they kept everything else the same.
T-Mobile needs to add like 5 or 10 whatever billion to N41. Just make that a priority, but they will never ever will. And this is why their network is just crap and never going to amount to anything. And they can have all the 5G first that they want, okay? But if you don't spend, the appropriated money on the capex, like I've been saying for almost this whole entire podcast, what do you have to show for it? Like,
You know what T-Mobile said today? They were stressing Capex light. You know, they
yeah,
really they don't want to spend a lot of money. They want to
it's
do them
yeah,
with
it's
different things with
pathetic.
the money, you
It's
know?
pathetic, is what it is, and it makes me sick to even have them. Why even like? See, the whole purpose. Usually, what the purpose is of putting out a quarterly um, results and stuff like these numbers is to highlight your capex, saying, "Hey, we're investing, we're putting capital into our company, putting capital into the network." That's the whole freaking point. If you don't do that, you're just. I mean, what are they doing? Like, I mean, we're putting money into marketing. Like,
Just
come on, like
to play devil's advocate though for a moment.
they don't deserve it. No, I'm just kidding.
No, there's a few things I want to touch on. So one is, I believe that if T-Mobile needed to, keyword needed to, them as a business would allocate more resources to CapEx. But T-Mobile doesn't see the need because they're getting their fastest speed test rewards. And for the most part, consumers aren't speaking with their wallets to say that the network is like the problem, right? People are still coming to their doors. They're staying in their doors and not leaving. I think NPS survey scores when it comes to network quality has been on the higher side for T-Mobile, especially after post merger shenanigans that they had. Second thing I'll just say is that as far as CapEx spends goes, I don't know many investors that get really excited about large continuous CapEx spends unless it translates into additional revenue growth, additional, other aspects, right? Acquiring new customers or entering new markets.
So let me ask you this, Dennis.
Verizon
If it's
does.
justified as ROIC, that and the company is known for that conversion, right? Generating revenues from the cash invested.
Yeah.
You feel good about it, right?
Yes. If it's a return on the investment. I'm saying, but that's the key part, the return part, right? Like seeing the return for all that money that was spent versus something else.
Dennis, they're not building a bunch of towers in rural America with no ROIC. We're talking about like densification projects, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's true. But again, I'm playing devil's advocate here mainly. The third thing I'll just say though is oh God, I'm blanking on what the third thing I wanted to say was. Well, the third thing I'll just say though, and it's probably not what I originally had in mind, is that T-Mobile's CapEx, like they're only focusing on the wireless product. Verizon and AT&T have a lot of. Oh no, I actually remember what the original thing was. The third thing I want to say was T-Mobile has less customers to worry about than AT&T and Verizon. They don't have to necessarily do as much to support their smaller.
Are you still playing devil's advocate?
Yes.
Okay, go on.
Yes, they don't necessarily have to spend as much money to support their consumer base because I think in most markets they're like the minority.
Dennis, don't they have the second most wireless customers in the nation now?
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Do they?
So
actually?
if that's
Yeah.
the case,
They do.
if that's the case, then
I was letting him play devil's advocate. There's a couple
they have
things I
been for
wanted
a
to say
while.
too, but go ahead, Dennis.
But I'm being facetious. Do they actually free lines? No, I'm just messing around. But no, I'm done playing devil's advocate. I mean, look, I think it's stupid and short-sighted not to spend in Capex. I think that while there is an excuse to cut back on it, it doesn't make sense right now at this juncture. Inflation's high. You should either be putting it in a bond, a business bond account, like I said, to actually save up money for a big auction if you're going to do anything, or you should actually be spending now because it's never going to be cheaper in the future to deploy. So now's the time to do it. And there's definitely a lot of room and growth opportunity if they do it, including building on that rural, including intensification, including things like backup generators so that they can have an opportunity to win future government contracts. Like, now is the time to be spending, and I do think it's a little silly. I think their Capex should be, for their size and for their goals, I think their Capex should probably be somewhere around the ballpark of like 13 billion. I think that would be fair for accomplishing their goals.
So this is an important point, and I made this video a couple of days ago. I think maybe it was even Sunday night. The reason why T-Mobile is reducing their Capex is because they have been overpaying for spectrum. Nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody wants to address the elephant in the room, but every single auction after 2016 and every spectrum transaction since that time frame, T-Mobile has overpaid for every bit of spectrum that they've purchased. They have been overpaying on a per megahertz pop basis for almost a decade. They paid the most per megahertz pop of DoD. They paid the highest per megahertz pop of C-band. They're overpaying for 600 megahertz from Comcast, LB Holdings, Channel 51 Holdings, you name it, they have overpaid per megahertz pop. And that is why they are reducing their Capex, because they have to pay the piper.
Yeah, that's
In
true.
fact,
Yep.
they are going to have to pay more on those leases from those schools and those churches for the 2.5. And now they're going to have to sink more money into OpEx because they don't own their fiber. And they are going to have to get 10 gig circuits. It's gotten to the point, folks, where everything is coming together and it makes sense. We cannot sit here and turn a blind eye and act like everything they do turns into Magenta. There are kinks in the armor, and they have to spend more. They have growth. They have heavy data usage. Their customers use the most data. They have the most fixed wireless access subscribers. It's all those things, right? They have to sink money back into the network. I don't have a problem with it, but I don't like the way they overpay for spectrum and underspend on tower sites and splitting up the grid. We need redundancy. We need small cells. We need,
So can we be honest?
to deploy C-band and DoD. We have things to do. Go ahead,
Sneed, it's not that they're not doing it because they don't want to. They're not investing in additional capex because they don't have the funds. They said free cash flow was 4 point. I'm sorry, a little less than 5 billion. That's great.
Why are they
That's
good,
not enough money.
But why are they good overspending on spectrum and underspending on the network?
But they don't have a choice. They don't have a choice. Most of the time when you go into an auction, you're gonna overpay. That's just kind of the way that it is. Everybody overpays, but you're able to mitigate that by other measures. They just don't have the funds right now to do anything else. They're doing this share buyback and they're doing all this other stuff. I mean, they're strapped for cash right now. They're strapped for cash.
Let me ask you guys something. And do you guys think the share buybacks? Do you think that will help them with their capex in the future?
I think their share buybacks may help them in the future.
Happier.
May help them in the future if their stock continues to go up like they're betting. If the stock is cheaper now and it goes up in the future, then I think it'll be a good emergency reserve for something like an auction. Or
here's the thing. Here's what I've learned. It all equates to how much your stock. It all equates to how much you're putting back into the company, back into the network, right? That's why it goes up. the investors see, oh, okay, we're investing in the company, but it's like a vicious circle, right? If you don't put your money back in the network, Sprint is a good example of this. Like your stock will never go up. The industry, the investor won't trust you, and you're just screwed. I
I,
hope,
I don't know, because if we're talking about like from like a health of the business standpoint, right? If that was the case, AT&T stock should be way higher than it is right now. Verizon stock should be way higher than it is right now.
I
But
agree
yet
with
it's
you. It
but yet
should.
it's but yet it's T-Mobile who is the highest. People and investors are irrational. I don't think that, like, I don't disagree with the fact that they should be spending more in the network today to benefit them in the future, or to be ready or set up in the future for whatever the next big revenue generating thing is. Like, I'm not disagreeing with this. Like, as that was touched on, there's a lot still to do. Not even with like millimeter wave that's being talked about here per se. I've already made my stance on when I think that's going to be important. As far as like more towards like 6G prep kind of stuff. Unless we're talking about specific select use cases like airports or football stadiums or something. But, there's plenty of cell splits that can happen. There's plenty of densification because their grid in certain markets is not evenly distributed, with cell sites sometimes being as upwards of 7 miles apart. Plenty of things could be done. And the money, the amount of money that would be required to get it done today versus waiting into the future is cheaper now. Heck, even the fiber piece, right? We keep talking about having to spend on fiber. Now's a really good time to maybe look at your top 25 PEAs and look to get your own fiber and just start that process in the most critical traffic demanding locations, for example.
That's a great idea, Dennis. I'm sure they've weighed that, but it's just difficult to get in. Can you name a more grueling, difficult, challenging process to building fiber from scratch? And I know in urban it's going to be a lot easier, but it is something to consider. Super chat from Green. Thank you, man. He said, "Why is T-Mobile so against deploying millimeter wave?" B, you want to take that one? All right, we'll see if we can get B back. Zero Cool, you want to take that one?
Yeah, sure. There's a couple things, right? It has to do with the fiber. Your owner's economics. It's a lot easier to, well, I'm not saying it's a lot easier, but it's a lot better if you're able to do it, to deploy your own fiber like AT&T is doing, to have that millimeter wave. You can have instant, your 10 gigs are good, so you don't have to rent it. You don't have to pay the piper, right? This is what T-Mobile has to do. They have to pay high inflated prices just to get effective, adequate backhaul. Right now, we don't know what they're going to do in the future. They could buy Frontier. That's the thing. I'll be surprised if they even go that far, because who knows? I don't know what they're going to do. But I predict maybe they'll buy. Maybe they'll buy Lumen. I don't know, but they need to buy somebody, because what they're doing right now sucks. And if they buy a company, yes, especially a fiber company, I would say that would be investing back into the network in that way. But for millimeter wave, it's very costly if you don't own fiber, right, to get that out into the field, the millimeter wave I'm talking about, because you need at least 10 gigabytes for effective millimeter wave solutions. Okay. This is a problem for T-Mobile. This is the flat out the reason why they don't do it. Okay, they're heavily invested.
So let's throw some others. Let's throw some other things around. How about the densification process? Like, these things got to be,
That's what I was just getting to.
they've got to be like scattered and littered all
Right.
over the place, right?
Right. But it's more than that, because here's T-Mobile's network goals, expansion efforts. This is their strategy. This is the reason why they bought the 600 megahertz from Comcast. What they're doing, this is what they have to do. Again, by 2026, get as much 600 and 2.5 out there as humanly possible. Okay. And yeah, salt splits. Yeah, I agree with you. They're not always. That's it. Like, salt splits are more like a use case scenario, depending on where you want the signal to go.
Got a lot of interference issues in New York City from that.
Yeah. So but they need to get as much 600 and 2.5 out in in the U.S. as humanly possible, and then and only then are they going to really focus on their millimeter wave as part of their screwed up layer cake, right? But again, there's no way that's remotely going to happen if they don't have owners economics somehow, some way in the fiber game. The real reason why Verizon, AT&T can put out millimeter wave like the ducats, right? You've seen a perfect example out in Cleveland is why is because they own the fiber, they own the pole.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What does T-Mobile have? They have thongs, right? So
Hang thongs from some poles,
hang
bro.
thongs from some poles and expect it to work. Yeah,
But they
I
got,
hope
but so like, hear me out on the Zero Cool. The relationship that Verizon has with Crown Castle, A1,
absolutely. Yep.
right? And Crown owns and operates their own fiber, and they own poles, and Verizon owns poles,
Yep.
and they've got MCI here, and they've got dark fiber.
Mm-hmm.
Like, everything's in place for them to thrive in these major markets.
Yep.
Where what 80% of your consumer base resides.
Right. Yeah. So it's important to have those relationships with tower companies such as Crown Castle, American Tower. For small cells, Crown Castle is the biggest, OEM for that. Again, this goes back to what I've been saying. Put money into Capex. Get these relationships going. Get these. You're like a T-Mobile reminds me of like oh, geez, I can't believe I'm losing this analogy. T-Mobile reminds me of a hunting situation to where they're like a sitting duck on a dock that's just waiting to be shot. Like,
So Zero Cool, hear me out on this, right? Should we have high expectations for T-Mobile?
I
or,
don't.
or do we still kind of put them at the 3-pole position for network excellence?
Yeah, put them until that Capex gets in line with AT&T and Verizon. Don't even give them a chance. There's no point until they start really getting after they get their their spectrum license that they overpaid for and everything else. Build the network, spend some Capex, get some sort of relationship going with these tower companies, with businesses, with fiber. If you're not going to buy a fiber company, for God's sake, just be in partnership with more fiber companies than what you already have.
Agreed.
Yeah, and not just in New York or like, come on, like this isn't hard to do. I just don't know. Again, this is what drives me nuts about their quarterly results is where's this money going to, and why does their Capex just continue to suck? And again, yes, you overpaid for spectrum, but that's not an excuse. That's a cop out. That's to me.
So I'll tell you,
that's a cop out for me.
I'll tell you this. It's not. I don't think it's that T-Mobile doesn't want to do those things. They simply don't have the money. They can't invest into all these things until they begin to generate higher levels of cash flow. And so they're celebrating $4 billion. That's not nearly enough. They just don't have the money. They don't have the revenue yet. So they have to do what they've been doing. I think AT&T and Verizon are more than happy to continue selling them fiber circuits. Why not? I mean, I think they're more than happy to do that. So, I mean, that's fine, but that's no way to maintain a nationwide network where you have to outsource so many different parts of it. You don't have that owner's economics. You can't fully control the performance of your own network because you're relying on all these other stuff. I mean, they don't own their towers. They don't own the fiber. All they own is spectrum, and they don't even own all of that. They got
They own
colleges
radios and
around.
Right.
They own
Yeah, I mean,
radios and
it's a poor excuse for a network, for a telco at this time. And everybody in the industry knows it. It seems like, and if something doesn't change, I just don't see how they sustain the level of growth. Because even if you don't do anything else, You don't build any new technology or anything. You still have to maintain what you have. And customers aren't going to stop using their services. They're going to continue to use more year over year over year. And then you're going to continue to have new subdivisions. Real estate developers are not going to stop developing real estate. So the network topology and the topography, it's going to change. You have to keep up with the pace of what changes in the environments.
So
all that costs money.
So I just want to touch, we focus on money, but I think it's more than just money. I think it's just a resource problem, right? Like, yes, money can solve a lot of problems, but I think it's just an overall resourcing issue, right? Like, no company, in my opinion, truly has all the resources in themselves to do everything that they want, right? So decisions have to be made as far as like prioritization
Not
goes.
like compromising and stuff, right?
Yeah. Like in
Budgeting.
T-Mobile's case, right? They chose to focus on strictly making basically a mid-band network as best as they could, as best as they can. Because that solves the bigger pain points for customers and allowed them to sell the fixed wireless product, right? But if they wanted to go out and do millimeter wave, that brings up a whole host of challenges, from the legal perspective to getting the permits, to the fiber problems as far as getting the fiber goes, to just having the engineers to
welcome to telco
to do the engineers to actually do the mapping and of the deployment for those areas, right? Because small cells, and specifically millimeter wave, is a whole different challenging beast to deploy and deal with versus even sub 6 gigahertz spectrums for small cells, right? Like, the characteristics of millimeter wave are just very different. I saw there's I've been paying attention to the comments. There was someone that mentioned something about fiber to rural. I just want to be clear here too. I didn't say T-Mobile should buy fiber into rural this moment. I said they should focus on the top 25 PEAs, but I'm also just going to throw it out here right now. For any carrier that wants to build out into rural, and I'm talking truly rural, like the kind of situation where AT&T literally has one macro serving like 10 people in the middle of the desert, rural, you're going to have to build that fiber out yourself if you start talking about those really, really rural projects. No one's going to really do it for you. And then someone else mentioned about purchasing a fiber provider for T-Mobile to get into the fiber footprint. T-Mobile already sort of did that when they acquired Sprint. The problem is actually getting the fiber to where you need it to be. And that's the big part. That's the part that's no matter which way you look at it, putting wires in the ground is always going to be expensive and tedious because of the nature of how the legislation works in this country, with every little zip code, every local county having different rules and different approvals for when you could put your stuff. And then you got to deal with the incumbent players that are going to obviously push you out for various reasons, especially if you're talking about fighting over space on the utility poles. Shucks, there's Sneed, Cranberry Township, right up in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Comcast, they were building out to serve business customers specifically. That's an Armstrong territory, but Comcast is building out there a couple years back to serve business customers there. And a company like Comcast ran into problems with that township, and they ended up having to spend money to replace a whole bunch of the old wooden poles to make space so that they could fit their lines up there and be far enough away from the electrical. And that's a Comcast-sized company, one that does deployments and hyper builds all the time, and they still have problems. T-Mobile's pretty new to that space. They don't have the boots on the ground like fiber technicians, I guess you would call them, that would be doing that groundwork. And a lot of these contracting services that are out there are already pretty well established with more traditional players. So, like, even if they had the money, I don't think they would be able to buy the human capital required to do a deployment within a certain time frame. I think it's going to be slow, painful, and grueling, and they should just focus on, now that they've got their UC network deployed, they should start focusing on making some of the investments, as you touched on, that will save them in the long term and put them in a better position to more affordably do some of the other things that'll be needed from networking. Maybe not next year or the year after, but in the long term, especially when we start talking about the horizons of 6G, right? That's my thoughts.
Who's got the most expensive mobile plan right now? Is it T-Mobile or is it still Verizon? Anybody know?
Yes, T-Mobile.
T-Mobile.
It's
Exactly. Why is it T-Mobile? Okay, so here's the point. If they're going to have the most expensive mobile plan, and I can guarantee you this ain't going to change. Probably not. At least at least in the beginning until for 2024. Yeah, they need to use this opportunity. As long as they can hold on to it to get their capex up. Like, again, what is the disconnect here? If they're going to keep on paying for their spectrum licenses, what's to stop them from raising prices even more? What's your guys' take on that? And you think that they should raise prices?
So you can't raise prices on the most expensive plan. You have to raise prices in your customer segment that has the most customers.
Yeah.
See, like if you
The
look
legacy
at the
plans.
traditional carriers, they hit the
Right.
legacy plans because those guys are hanging on for dear life.
No,
So you're like,
they
oh,
are.
we could just hit $2 on each line. Like Verizon just made an extra $100 million on price action in Q3. But instead, T-Mobile wants to still pretend like they're the uncarrier, like they're helping people, and they try to do a little sneak attack. It blows up in Deceivert's face, and he's eating shit because he doesn't have the balls to actually do what he wants to do, which is make everybody pay for the network upgrades.
Yeah, no, I
He
agree with you.
literally doesn't have the guts to do it. He has the guts to be sneaky. He doesn't have the guts to be a stand-up CEO and command that there's no more free chicken, to quote B.
So
Come on, Sneed.
So like what you're saying is you don't think they're going to have like a new plan in mid 2024 that's going to be more expensive?
What $120 plan? What are we talking about here?
That's what I'm
Bro,
saying.
we're
Yeah,
talking
you don't
about
think
the
that they will?
company that literally has the worst calling in the industry. You're gonna make
Right.
a $120 plan and you can't even do a FaceTime?
Might as well. I don't know. I wouldn't put it. What I'm saying is I wouldn't put it past them to do something crazy like this.
What up, Los?
They already have the
Hey,
most expensive plan in the industry.
is it gonna buy stuff like this? Small cells. Does
Let's
he do
hope so.
120 a month?
I mean, would you guys pay that if T-Mobile said, okay, we're going to blanket, the whole nation, especially with small cells like Verizon's doing, match them or better? Would you guys pay $120 a
no.
month? No.
$120 is more than I pay for 4 lines.
You guys don't know what I would pay. B, what about you? Would you pay $120 a month for T-Mobile?
I wouldn't pay $40 a month for T-Mobile.
Sneed, 120 for T-Mobile?
No, sir.
Vince, $120 for T-Mobile?
I'm gonna have to do a hard pass.
Okay.
Listen, I want to clarify. I wouldn't spend $120 with any carrier for one line.
Exactly.
Not even AT&T. And you guys know how impeccable AT&T is in AT&T. I mean, in Pittsburgh.
That's crazy.
What up, Vin? How you doing, bro?
Not much. I went to that stupid North Olmsted meeting, and everyone there was just. I mean, it was fucking crazy. Like at the end, everyone was fucking standing up and yelling at the person. It was TowerCo who was planning on doing it. Like all the permits already passed.
Oh,
for
you went to
either
one of
to-
those meetings.
Yeah.
So I've been to those as an RF engineer, and pretty much what you have to do is you're they're horrible. No, they really are. You're pretty much the face of the company. So as in engineering, you're presenting your plan not only to build the tower, but to your pitch, right? The cell tower companies come with you to make this pitch, and sometimes it's just them or us, but it's just you basically make the pitch to where it's going to be better for the community, and that's probably what they
Yeah, so it was T-Mobile who wanted the tower. So, I mean, it was pretty chaotic there. Everyone was saying that it would be an eyesore, which I think it was 150 feet they're proposing or 145. I mean, that
Mhm.
is pretty tall,
Yeah,
but
but it's the tree
yeah,
line. You literally
yeah.
wouldn't unless you were looking for it, like
Right. And then I have to say, there was a lot of elderly people there. I mean, I'm not no hate towards them, but they knew nothing about it and they did stupid research and papers. And the guy working for TowerCo, I actually felt bad for him.
Oh
Like
yeah.
all that they were all yelling at him with this garbage reasoning. And I mean, it was just like I wish I would have recorded it, but I'm not trying to stick a camera up in front of a bunch of idiots and then get myself
What
screwed.
they say, it's gonna be the next pandemic.
Hey,
Yeah.
listen. We can hate NIMBYs. That's the word for it, right? NIMBYs. That's the word you use, Sneed, on the show. We can hate them.
NIMBYs, right?
And I'm not saying we should hate all elderly, but NIMBYs tend to be on the older side. And it's
NIMBYs are
where
uninformed.
yeah.
Or I should say misinformed.
Yeah, so what their idea was, what the people were asking is for them to put two towers at two separate properties and having each tower point the area that they want to put the tower at. But the person working for TowerCo was just like, "Are you guys like retarded?" I want to say the word. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, it was just like
Because the
even the
logistics, like that
yeah.
tower is gonna cost like an
I don't think
exorbitant amount of
yeah,
money.
I
I mean,
don't
there's
think
a
the
land lease with the city, there's gonna be all types of stuff.
people were saying that we should just bring 3G back because it's longer range. Like, it was fucking hilarious. I
We
mean,
should
Can I
bring 3G back. They'll
can I
say anything, these
can
people,
I
man.
can I just say
How
that
many?
this is gonna be very anti-American, and I'm sorry for it. But can I just say that the local people should have no say when it comes to infrastructure at all? When it comes to stuff like this, like to me,
I agree.
telecommunications is critical infrastructure in the same
right.
way that electricity, in the same way that like water is. And I'm pretty sure you can't say no to like an electric company building out electricity. Like
Right.
telco should be the same way. Like
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I know. I agree. That's the thing. Like, and here's the thing with these meetings, right? Um, the people don't have really a say in it as long as the carrier gets approval from like the city zoning commission and the city board approval from them. There's not nothing that the residents can do.
Yeah, so the meeting was mainly about, I would say, people there was younger couples with kids and the older people were talking about how it's not good for the kids, right? And the
I like
older
how, like, humans have, like, varying levels of who gives a shit. Like,
right.
radiation, it's okay for the elderly to be hit with radiation, but not the kids,
Yeah. I mean,
because radiation,
right.
it likes
Yeah,
to
and
pick
then
on kids, you know?
right. And then because what was it? The younger couple was saying, "Let's focus on something." She was just like literally just walked right up there. She was pissed as fuck. And she said, "Let's focus on something." Uh she said, "Let's focus on how much money that they're getting from this tower." And I think it was 400,000 base, right?
Mhm.
So they said, "Let's focus on redoing the park," right? She said she has a 2.5-year-old, and they still wanted to argue about how it's not good for the kids. I mean, she had a 2.5-year-old. She's focusing on the park herself. So,
can I just chime in and just say that I when it comes to things to focus on, right? I'm not saying so. First off, if you're one of the people that thinks the 5G waves are gonna do some nasty things to you, please actually look at a scientific source. Um, I promise you, if it was big, bad, and scary, you wouldn't have political officials actually being okay with it. But secondarily, if you're gonna focus on stuff, right, focus your energy on actual things that matter. Like, I don't know if people realize this or not. Like, I'm just gonna mention a fun fact, but like America, for example, has a huge water crisis around the corner. Like groundwater is running up in a lot of different places. Our water treatment facilities aren't built to handle the increased populations in the changing demographics. We literally got lines that aren't even like they're literally from the Civil War, made out of wood that are still being discovered to this day. I'm not joking, Sneed.
It's
One got
crazy,
found
man.
in Pittsburgh like I don't know 4 years ago. It was a wooden water line that was like unmarked, and the water lines that were most of the water like lines that we are using were built and deployed back in like the 50s. Like, can we focus on like actual stuff that matters, like drinking water, making our
Yeah, but
electric
these
grid more
same
resilient?
folks, Dennis, they're lining up at Mickey D's getting the Trick Ronalds every day. They smoke cigarettes. They drink alcohol excessively.
I know that's the
Why?
point I'm
Why?
getting
Since
at.
when do they care about any of these exposures?
As you know, Sneed, that area has a lot of fast food restaurants.
I do.
Homestead, by the way, what Homestead are we talking about? Because there's one out here in Pennsylvania. Where are we talking about? Homestead
North
where?
Olmsted, Ohio.
Mm.
Suburb of Cleavage, Ohio. Bro,
I
so
understand.
Verizon has a small cell right across the street from the community center. Verizon has a macro right by the freeway. You know, so it serves that area too. AT&T's like 1.5 miles west on a giant macro behind the pet and towing. T-Mobile's already at the site. They want to move the site so that the signal is better for T-Mobile so it can address a coverage gap.
Yeah, he was talking about the how there's a difference between coverage and capacity because they didn't understand that.
This shit is crazy.
Yeah.
They could have prepared themselves in 15 minutes.
Right.
If they knew what they were looking for, but they don't. But we're talking about folks that likely still read a newspaper on a newspaper.
The funny thing is, though, these same folks are the same folks that will complain about how they can't get like Comcast Home Internet or anything else at their houses. Like, these are the same folks that complain that all they have is satellite.
Bro, they can have that with money. They're the park, the city's literally going to get like 450 grand. They could renovate that park to look sweet.
Oh yeah, they had the plans there. They had a map of what they want to do, and they were also asking for suggestions on that. But everyone was just focusing on hammering the cell tower.
Bro, the monthly royalties on that site's going to be like 3-4 grand, 5 grand.
Yeah, they said. Well, they said that
Isn't Dish on there?
On which site? The one that they want to put up, or
the one that's existing? Is it, or is that old Sprint gear? I saw the picture. It's like T-Mobile's at the top, and then there's like a set of antennas right below it. It's 3 sector, but it's like 1 antenna per sector. It's either a old Sprint site or it's Dish.
I'd assume it would be Sprint because Fairview. I think no. On my home tower, what we have Nextel on there still, and something else. I think it's Sprint, but
Question, Vince.
Yeah.
At the meeting, what was the breakdown of demographics? Were there more of the older generation at the meeting, or was it mixed between old and young, or was it less
Just
young?
older. I'd say there was like one couple that was younger. That's it.
So therein lies the problem. So all I've heard the last few minutes is everyone talk about how uninformed the older community is. All those things I actually agree with. You guys are right. But you know what the older crowd does? Like really consistently, they vote. They attend those meetings.
You want me to go there?
They contact elected officials.
B, do you want me to go there and have them yell
Yes.
at me and tell me to stay off my lawn?
Well, what I would like to see more people do that are in our age group is actually do more than just complain on the back end. Go to these meetings ourselves, vote more consistently, be a part of the political process, be a part of these conversations, so that we, the ones who actually see the need for these solutions to be actually implemented and be built, so that our voices are heard, as opposed to the ones who are at that meeting. Because based on what Vince is saying, I mean, I don't know what the elected officials there are going to do, but they're probably going to side with the people who are there.
B, in order for young people to be able to participate in that, we kind of need to make it so that young people don't have to work 70 hours a week just to pay for things. Those older communities right now, they're sitting on nest eggs, nice nest eggs, retirement funds, social security payouts. and all
I
that
don't
good
think
stuff.
that's necessarily.
They got nothing but time.
I don't think that's necessarily true. If that were the case, we wouldn't have reports of the older community needing to go back to work.
All
So
right, make it
everybody
a
that's
Zoom
old
meeting.
is
I'll be
not
there. Make it a Zoom
yeah, like
meeting. I'll be
everybody
there.
that yeah, man, everybody that's not, you know, everybody that's old is not necessarily rolling around in dough. That's just not true. So I mean, all that I'm saying
Yup.
is we have to be more of a part of these conversations if we want meaningful progress. I mean, that's just the way it is, man. It is what it is. It's not always. I mean, Zoom meetings, yes, there are some counties who do, some counties who don't. But if there's a meeting, we got to be there. If there's an election or something on the ballot, a referendum, something along those lines, and we don't participate, then it's our fault. We're part of the
Do an
problem. That's what
experiment.
I'm saying.
Do an experiment. Turn off the tower for one day. Ask him how it feels.
Yeah.
Also, I just want to
Yeah.
say, B, I'm a super voter. Since I've turned 18, I haven't missed a single vote, local or federal level, mainly because my dad makes me vote, but also because I do mail-in ballots. Give me the
Nothing wrong
digital
with that.
option that give me the digital option that Sneed talked about. Put up a calendar, make it accessible, and I guarantee you see more younger people happen because I can afford to dedicate 30 minutes. I can't afford to dedicate 2 hours to go drive, find parking, and do everything else. I need to be actually by my computer in case I get a Slack message about something urgent that requires my attention.
I would say connectivity is pretty urgent. I would say water. I would say electricity. All those things are pretty urgent. I know for me that's worth 2 hours.
Well, hey,
And if I
you've
need to
heard me
drive,
say internet's more important than water for me. So, I mean, it is important, but you know.
I would say most people our age and even younger would agree, but our actions don't always seem to line up with that. Is what I'm saying. So the fact that that meeting was filled with a bunch of old folk and not a whole bunch of people who, are younger and understand the importance of what was being proposed. I mean, it's unfortunate, but it's just par for the course. That's normally how it goes. The older people in this community, in this country, they normally have a louder voice because the young people are too busy doing whatever to actually act like they care. It is what it is, guys.
I look at it like this, bro. There's a community here where they literally fought. There's not even a single macro monopole, nothing. But guess what Verizon did? They put a bunch of small cells everywhere. They allowed them to put small cells everywhere, and the coverage is superb there. So I don't see what the issue can be. If they don't want it, then screw it. Put small cells. Make it happen somehow.
Or you could just do the other option that Sneed kind of joked about but touched on. Just say, F it, no coverage for you. I'll move on to somewhere else.
Oh,
Yeah, I mean, those engineers, I'm sure they have their reasons for wanting to build. I don't know if there's a broken sector or something that they're trying to address. But to what Los is saying, I mean, I agree. Small cells most of the time are built in the highway, so they don't need permission from whatever resident. They get the permit from the city and they build. So that oftentimes is a workaround, and so small cells, they work just as well as macros from a coverage standpoint in many areas.
So check
So
this
that
out,
would
B.
be another alternative.
So check this out. The signs in their yards say no cell tower at the park. But there's already a cell tower at the park. They're just moving it.
Yeah, here's the thing. A move is a lot easier than a new build. You know, a lot easier.
as long as it doesn't fall.
Thanks,
And that's
Donald.
the other thing. Like the FCC actually lacks the regulation on the cell tower moves as well because you're not constructing. Well, you're kind of constructing a new tower, but it's the FCC permitting is classified as an existing tower.
I mean, I already know the tower is going to be moved. Both permits were approved for either location in the park. So, I mean, I don't
Nice.
think there's really reversing it now for them. I think they're kind of just trying to say their word, which seems kind of stupid, but
Stick it to all those old people.
The
Well,
funny thing
Man,
is, some NIMBYs complain about cell towers, and yet they rely on cell towers to use the McDonald's rewards app inside the McDonald's, and then complain about no coverage.
Yo, Vin, what else, man? I know you're one of the locals in the area, man. What else?
I mean, not much. I haven't been doing too much, but I'm going to get back into it. I've just been fed up with schoolwork, so.
Dude, you sound like you're still in high school. Is that true?
Yep.
All right. Which carriers are you using, man?
What do you mean? I use all carriers.
That's what. Okay, so you got a SIM for all of them?
Yep.
Yeah. All right, man. Who's been good for you lately?
I'd say AT&T is probably the most solid in the Cleveland area, but I mean, I say Verizon is also up there. T-Mobile is pretty good too, but you know how T-Mobile is. So.
Wait, B, how are you gonna say Cap? Ohio has been a very strong place for AT&T, especially after the FirstNet modernizations.
B, AT&T is goated here, dude.
I know
Stop it,
that.
Sneed.
No, seriously, I've been all over.
It's good here, dude.
I've been all over Ohio. AT&T over there is almost as good as how it is here in Pittsburgh. Is very close.
Look,
I do not deny that AT&T is good in Cleveland. I do not deny that at all. But is it the best in Cleveland? Absolutely not. No.
yeah, it's
not.
definitely arguable. So here's something I will say about Verizon's network in Cleveland. It's very dynamic. They got small cells littered everywhere. They've got ultra wideband ubiquitous. They've got millimeter wave nodes. You know, they've made their network like basically bulletproof here, right? Like,
yeah, but
they
if you're
don't really
asking,
have many weak spots.
if you're asking for reliability, if you're not really doing too much, I'd say AT&T would be the way to go.
There you have it.
I just wouldn't expect a radio tower to stand up to bullets if some lunatic starts shooting radio site.
Oh,
Yeah, you're making a joke, but in places where that kind of stuff happens, AT&T doesn't mess around. They'll put like electric fences up and all kinds of stuff.
Armor plating like AR-500. Do they put that up too?
No, but I'm saying that they put up like they'll they put their stuff inside cabinets, they'll lock it, surround it with like electrical fencing, there'll be cameras, all kinds of stuff. Carlos, you know I'm not joking, right? You've seen that kind of stuff out your way probably.
What?
Like cell sites that got like everything inside a cabinet surrounded by cameras and then like an electrical fence.
That only happened to one site when it got robbed for all the batteries
but they put all that up. They put all that up.
Then that's when they put it up, but it never had it before. That's the only site I know that has it.
Yeah, but I'm saying if you have a place where it's like that, where it's problematic, they'll deck out the site pretty well, man. You'll get the electrical fence.
Oh,
yeah.
Anybody know anything about AT&T in Northeast Florida?
Nope.
And if you guys ever need to know about carriers in Maine, Raging Dusty's got you. He's talking about AT&T in Maine is amazing unless you're in Sheboygan.
Yeah, having a Maine lobster tail while playing on your phone would probably be fun.
Hey, but so Sneed, going back to Ohio for a moment, which carrier within the last year, because it's all it's been about a year almost, which carrier in the last year would you say has been most improved?
In the last year, so like October to October, 22 to 23?
Yeah.
In regards to capacity?
Just overall network experience.
See, nobody really had coverage issues, so I can only speak to capacity. I would say in capacity, Verizon has leveled up in capacity. Like, I mean, they're putting 100 plus megahertz of midband on air, so I'm going to go with them for the capacity piece. For the reason I don't put AT&T there is because AT&T was already pretty fast. They never really got slow, right? Verizon was starting to chug a little bit on some of these, situations where the time market share and not a lot of spectrum on air, right? So I would say Verizon for capacity. I'd say T-Mobile's the most improved with respect to reliability. Verizon's been reliable. AT&T's been reliable. T-Mobile has gotten more reliable, but they were starting from very low. Like I was having, like in 2020, it was so unreliable. In 21, it was a little better. 22 was much better. And then 23, I mean, I only have, just the calling issues now. It doesn't sound good. I still drop occasionally, but it used to be really bad. Basically, I was at risk of dropping a call if I was switching tower sites. It was that bad, bro, back in 2020.
$100.
Damn, bro.
For me, in my market, T-Mobile is who I would say is most improved. And it goes back to the reliability piece that you were talking about. And just overall consistency. By that I mean like they're consistently fast now. Like I can't really think of a recent time within the last like month or so where I've seen less than 25 meg on them for the down and less than like 5 on the up. I specify those numbers because if it's around there, whatever I'm trying to do is probably going to work just fine from a data standpoint. Texting seems to be working fine. MMS is still, well, it's MMS. And then calling, I haven't really had any real problems. I mean, Sneed, I call you all the time off the T-Mobile line when we speak, and at least for me, it sounds fine. The second most improved though would be Verizon, because here in Pittsburgh, unlike in Cleveland, Verizon was really struggling from a capacity standpoint, really struggling badly. I mean, even in the places where they were getting the N77 up, they were getting slammed by like fixed wireless cells, and those sites were very, very like they were feeling the burn. Now Verizon, if you're connected to C-band, you're probably going to get somewhere in the ballpark of 300 to 500 meg pretty consistently on the down. Uplink is a little bit needs some fine tuning. Still, I think they're still playing around with it, but it's still usable. And then AT&T, for the same reason that you said, AT&T was never slow. AT&T was already good. And while it's nice to see finally like gig speed tests on AT&T here, a gigabit speed test is not making any difference to me from the 300 meg that I was already seeing. Like it was already goated, right?
Yeah.
I will say though, if we're talking about improvements, AT&T did improve their ping times a lot.
Did it show up in your experience? Do you feel it?
I mean, to be honest, even though AT&T had higher latency, I never noticed it in my experience. Like it never translated in real world.
That's a good question to ask, right? Like everybody gets caught up 20 millisecond, 58 millisecond, and it's like they're milliseconds.
Yeah, like it's funny, right? Like AT&T had higher ping times than say T-Mobile, but AT&T would load things up faster than T-Mobile. So like I don't know. I never really felt it, and it's not like I'm like gaming on my phone. Maybe that's where I would have noticed it, but like, yeah, it's lower. I truthfully don't feel any difference, but I don't know. AT&T to me is the closest definition that you're going to get to perfect as far as network quality goes, at least here in Pittsburgh. Like, it's pretty freaking good. In the same way that Verizon's really good out in Vegas, like that's the AT&T experience out here in Pittsburgh. I mean. I can't fault them for anything. Like the calling sounds great. Los, you've heard the calls. They sound tremendous. The texting works. MMS works. I don't have problems with either of those. And data's always been fast. My main problems with Verizon was fixed by the plan. Now I can actually take advantage of their network. It's still not the best at my particular house, but if you bounce around, it's going to be fine. They still have that one dead spot though, like in the heart of Pittsburgh, where like you're going to connect to like those femto cells that people have in their houses. But I'm sure that'll get fixed with time. And then T-Mobile's finally just consistent and good enough. There's not really a bad network to pick if you live in Pittsburgh anymore. Like they're all acceptable.
It's a blessing. Big trust. It's a blessing, man. When you could pick your carrier because of a deal, a price, a promotion, you know, you don't have to say, well, I got to have this carrier because this other one drops calls, or I got to have this carrier because these other two don't work good at my work. You know, stuff like that.
I mean, you're still going to have situations like that, right? Like you mentioned work, you know, you're still going to have situations where like the building or something isn't great. I mean, Pittsburgh is a freaking very hilly place, right? Like you walk on one side of the UPMC hospital and you might have a little bit of a worse time with somebody than.
Bro, I got towers at my work, like right outside, dog.
I will say though, since we're talking about UPMC, I had to go there maybe about 2 months ago. T-Mobile had perfect signal inside the hospital building, perfect signal, which was a big improvement for them because that used to be a dead zone for them, and they had perfect signal inside the
Probably put a
UPMC
tower just right outside, or they put a desk maybe.
Maybe, yeah. But inside the Presbyterian hospital, the UPMC main Presbyterian hospital, yeah, I was getting like 800 meg in the hospital, and that used to be a dead zone for them entirely.
Dude, before I moved, Verizon installed a DAS at my local rec center, bro. The freaking rec center. And they put an access point in every corner of the building. It was incredible, man. LTE getting like 300 megabits per second, man.
What rec center was that?
Hold on real quick. I need to address this comment. Tech guy said most hospitals have free Wi-Fi, so signal may not be an issue due to Wi-Fi calling. My guy, if you're at a hospital, the last thing you want from your cellular provider is to see no service, because I can promise you, if you're at a hospital, you're probably trying to make some important phone calls happen to make either family aware of something that happened.
Yeah, you don't want to negotiate that time, right?
That is literally the one time where you don't want to not have working service.
Right.
And also, as far as free Wi-Fi goes, I have never been to a hospital that had free Wi-Fi, and even if I did, I would not trust it for the type of things I'm going to be trying to do on that Wi-Fi. Yeah, no.
Oh, I've been.
I mean,
free Wi-Fi
if you have Comcast, you can hook up to one of their free Xfinity Wi-Fi hotspots down at UPMC Presbyterian, but I didn't see any free Wi-Fi signals.
Shameless plug.
I mean, I don't work for Comcast. It's not a shameless plug. I was being.
Well, I'm not saying you do. I'm just saying the actual comment.
Yo, Vin, were you asking about which rec center it was?
Yeah.
That's the Westlake Rec Center. You know where that big ass
Westlake
hill
has
is?
that?
Yeah, you know where that big pond and the big ass hill is?
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
I know Great Northern has a DAS, but
yeah, it's been there for years.
Yeah.
Strongsville's got one. Actually, T-Mobile's got one in South Park.
Oh, they do?
Yeah. I think Zero Cool, back when he used to work for them, kind of gave me the skinny on it. It's an older one, but it works. The N41 that's over there by the Shell gas station off 71, it reaches there, so it's not a big deal. It doesn't reach well in the middle by the food court.
Oh.
Sneed, you've been to UPMC Presbyterian before, right?
Yeah, man.
That is not a cheapskate hospital. That is a nice hospital.
I mean, Pittsburgh's known for its healthcare, dog.
We literally have some of the best hospitals in the country.
Yeah.
Like literally, like leading medical procedures have taken place in our hospitals.
It ain't better than the Cleveland Clinic, but you got it, bro.
The Cleveland Oh, there's so many jokes that I can say, but I won't.
You ain't messing with the Cleveland Clinic. You got all the Saudi Arabian kings coming here for this hospital care, dog.
That is true. Yeah, I've heard about that. That is true.
I mean, if you want to take it there, I mean, we can. I mean, Cleveland Clinic is in the Middle East, right? They have, campuses and stuff like that over there.
Damn, hey, Sneed, I have a fun thought though.
Yeah,
what's the worst? So I said hospitals was the worst place to not have cell service, but can you think of anywhere else that would be worse not to have cell service?
Worse than a hospital.
Middle of the desert.
I would say worst place, like indoors. So like
it doesn't have to be indoors. I'm just thinking of a worse place than a hospital not have cell service. I'm just trying to think.
A library.
In a basement after a tornado flattened your house.
A library, you said?
Yeah, a library, because when I used to use the library when I was a college student, I mean, you might want to stream music on your headphones. You might want to live stream, record your podcast, upload content. And I like you, man, I don't want to do the Wi-Fi thing. I really don't want to.
See, it's funny you say the library, because I remember when I was at Penn State Wi-Fi was pretty freaking legit. And then pre-Penn State, like, I think I tweeted this, right? I grew up in the sticks, right? Like, back when back in the dial-up days, I used to go to the library because they were the place that had fast internet at the public library. Yeah, I think of the libraries as like internet havens, if you're rural. But But yeah, I mean that would be pretty rough.
Dennis, you know what I was doing before I got fiber here at the HQ?
I'm gonna take a guess and say you were probably uploading from your school's internet.
No, I was uploading at the mmWave node at the Walmart.
Who's millimeter wave site was that?
Really, B?
I'm just asking. I don't know. I don't know.
Damn, Skippy, you know.
Is that a question?
Look at you playing games, bro.
Yeah, I mean, which
now you're messing with me.
Which company? Who? I don't know.
Ghosts. You're getting me back for all them 5G ghosts. All right.
Dude, you know.
All I did was ask a question, man. That's all I did.
Dude, Sneed, you know what we should do, man?
What
you and me should take a trip out to State College, Pennsylvania. Because I'd be curious to see what the state of cellular looks like over on a major campus like that.
It's bad. That one in particular, yes, is bad.
I heard
Verizon is trash at State College.
Oh,
I read that online.
Really?
Yes,
it
is a weakness that they are literally gonna have to do something about that ASAP.
I was gonna say because the reason why I was bringing up State College because at least back when I was going there, which would be back in 2019, 2020, I remember that T-Mobile used to be pretty good up there. AT&T was the best up there by a long shot. Like T-Mobile was good as long as you stay on the actual campus. Don't go off campus, you're fine. AT&T was good because you could actually go off campus and use it. And then I remember Verizon not being like that bad. Specifically out by the IST building, I remember Verizon being actually pretty good because they had CBRS.
We got to go to Ball State University. Pause.
Stop it,
Dennis. You want to go there?
I want to go to main campus because I want to go to the Creamery. I haven't had Penn State.
See, there's another pause, bro. See, now we're getting crazy, bro.
Dude, come on. Penn State ice cream is baller, okay? And also there was a dairy farm off campus, sold milk in like the glass jugs. They even did deliveries. Like
yo, Dennis likes Dennis be milking cows, bro.
Penn State is known for their agricultural majors. But they would deliver milk old school like milkman style. And like look, they had some of the best tasting milk. Also, they have a Wegmans out there. Wegmans is awesome. Okay. I wish we had one out here.
Yes, it is.
I wish we had one out here in Pittsburgh. I wish we had one out here in Pittsburgh. The closest thing we have is Giant Eagle, specifically their Market District flagship stores, which were modeled after a Wegmans. And it's pretty similar, but there's one thing that I miss. The one thing I miss the most about Wegmans is Wegmans had an app. And the cool thing about their app was that all the groceries and stuff like that you could easily find because it would show you like the aisles. It would even map out your path for you. And anything you frequently bought, it would make like a grocery list for you. Like they'll be like, oh, we see it's been 2 weeks since you bought milk and that was like your regular purchase. We'll go ahead and automatically add that to your shopping cart for you. And coupons would automatically apply at checkout. It was such a great shopping experience. And I know people say Wegmans was expensive, but I was actually able to get great deals on their Wegman brand, like black beans, 33 cents a can. Actually, sometimes they do four for $4 for 25 cents a can, and they would also do sales on their eggs. I remember loading up on their eggs.
No, not the eggs, Dennis. Come on, bro.
Listen,
oh man,
you know, I used to live off of. I told you about this. I used to live off of $50. I used to live off of $50 a month as a food budget when I was living off the dorms.
Can we not do this? Can we not go back to that, please?
Okay, I'm just saying. There were hard times, but now that I got some money, I'd love to buy some of the fancy stuff at Wegmans, like the dried meats and stuff.
You know, Dennis is on that Wagyu right now. Swagoo and Wagyu.
You know it, bro. Buy me some Wagyu steak. Mm-hmm.
If you have food insecurity, hit food pantries hard.
Yep, get in there, bro.
I'm good now. I mean, I don't really look at the receipts too much. My food bill on a weekly basis is somewhere around $125-150.
Yo, shout out to Vince, man. Vince, I made a video for you, dog. And I drove the neighborhood and I tested that for you. And,
you did?
I think I figured it out. I figured out what's going on at your on your street, man.
What is it?
Okay, so you've got 3 serving cells that are really loud around your area. So you know that macro that's off I-480 and Clegg?
Yeah.
That's in play with this, right? You
Oh.
also have a small cell that's by the VFW.
Okay, that one. Yeah.
Okay, and that one reaches the end of your street. It doesn't reach your street though, right?
Oh.
And then to make things worse, you also have a sector that faces your house or your street from that big ass complex over at Fairview by the bowling alley.
That. Jeez.
You got
Oh,
a lot of action there, dude, and you're right in between all of that. So it's
no
constantly
wonder.
switching, but it's all edge cell. Your whole street never touches an RSRP above or better than 110. So it's weak signal and it's noisy. And it's switching
Yeah.
cells. It's a nightmare.
Bad sign off.
That's-
So just some optimization work needs to be done. All right.
That's the thing, B. The problem is he's in between these 3 sites. I don't know what they would do for him.
Well, I mean, you gotta decide. I mean, whoever the engineer is, I'm sure they have to decide which cell sector carrier they want to be the primary serving cell for that particular portion of the network. That's really the answer. Which of those do you want to be the first set?
On the end of his street, you will get 200 megabits on LTE because of the small cell. The CBRS reaches. But the moment you pull in, like you go past 2 or 3 houses, you're off of the small cell and you're on a macro. And the macro is at like minus 115.
Yeah, so you got to take that macro out of there. You can do it with down tilting. You can do it with some power reduction. Those are the 2 go-tos. You got to get that cell out of there.
The thing is, Verizon doesn't want to do anything for me. So,
bro, I'm telling you, because they look at it and they're like, how could he be having issues? That place has towers everywhere.
Yeah,
but what they're not realizing is it's noisy there. Right on your street, it's freaking noisy. Bro, there's no uplink. When I was testing on your street, 1 and 2 megabits tops. If you take that inside, you got nothing.
Yeah, I had kilobits a second upload mainly, so.
You're going to love the video I made for you, bro. Just for you, Vince. Just because you kind of come into the community and, you've been involved and, you're all amped up about it. And I wanted to make that video for you.
Yeah, I mean, a Verizon engineer came out on his work time and he does stuff with cell towers, obviously. And he said I'm pretty much just kind of screwed. So.
See, I told you, B. I told you that's what they're going to tell him. They're going to tell him that it's literally because the end. So the street does a little U thing, right? It goes from one end and out the other. And on the ends of the street, you're golden. There's like this other little side street that like falls back to the back of the neighborhood. That's where it's the worst. Something tells me you're probably over there.
I'm closer to 220 and Friar.
Okay. All right. Well, if you lived right off of 220, you'd be getting 200 megabits on LTE. It's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, he said I'm at the edge of the cells, obviously. He said those cells are pretty much slammed 24/7, so.
Bro, they're all fast. Every single one of those cells has every frequency Verizon has.
Yeah.
They all have CBRS. They all have C-band. 100 megahertz or better. They all got 10 gig fiber. Like it's not the issue. It's the spot, bro. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
So I guess the engineer maybe they don't want to take the RF away because they may take coverage away from someone completely. Maybe that's the reason why.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate.
Yeah, it might be, man. So what did they
offer
you a solution?
I wonder if
Wait, what did you say, Sneed?
I was gonna say the one, and I mentioned it in the video, a booster potentially, right? Would it boost a noisy signal, or would it boost and give you a cleaner signal? What do you think, B?
It always takes the strongest signal that it can, or that it can hear, and just kind of repeats it across, around the house. If that RF signal isn't very clean, though, it may just end up amplifying the same noisy signal that it hears. So that may not be a solution either, or a viable one. It doesn't. I mean, based on what you guys are saying, I don't know everything. I don't claim to know everything, but it sounds like it is a tough situation. Maybe, like I was saying before, with that site, you may not be able to take the cell, that macro cell out of there, get that RF out of there, because you may be taking, service away from someone else. That's the only thing that I can think of. As far as why you wouldn't want to maybe do a down tilt, or, reduce the power on that particular sector. Uh, that's all I can think of. If it's close, I don't know, just throwing something out there. If it's close, maybe try taking the low band out. If it's a situation where everything's within maybe a mile, and try to
It's
serve
stick.
or use the higher band stuff for that
It
particular sector.
it sticks to mid band on my Pixel. I was getting like I was getting AWS weak, and I was getting PCS a little bit better, but the PCS is only 5 megahertz here. That's really the
Well,
issue.
that makes sense. From what I understand, you of course you can prioritize which of those frequencies you want customers to go on first as far as the UE is concerned, their phone. So it makes sense that you go to that mid band or LTE high band um, first. But if that's where the noise is coming from, as opposed to the low band, then you may have to do down tilts on that stuff as well. I don't know. That
I'm
does
gonna
sound
stick
like a
my
tricky
neck
one.
out and guess something here. And if you ever talk to them again, Vince, see if there's something they could do about that small cell. That's the
Yeah.
least important thing, right? The small cells for added capacity, but it was built before they upgraded those 2 macros. So it might be something that they could, if they can crush the small cell from getting to your neighborhood, it might actually improve things.
Have you
Because
seen
what you
the
need is you need a cleaner signal getting to your house. Those macros might be giving you a
What type
weaker signal, but it might be cleaner, which means you can actually use it.
have
what
you
type of
seen the
antenna is on the small cell, Sneed? Did you see it?
It's what yeah,
Is
it's
it
one of those, yeah, I'll send you a
is
picture, man.
it
Actually, hey,
is
you
it
remember the video I did? Uh, the small cells in Rocky River that they had just built probably about 2, 3 months ago when they were adding the small cells. It's those skinny ones. It's just
okay?
like
So let
it's like
me
a singular antenna.
so is it so it sounds like it's omnidirectional.
It is omnidirectional.
Okay, so it's probably 0 degrees of tilt, obviously. So they probably have to reduce the transmit power on that small cell in order to get it out of that portion of the neighborhood. They couldn't. There's no tilt on a small cell. So
So less
at least
flexibility.
from my understanding. So
Yeah.
yeah, so you probably the only option is to just reduce the power on that small cell.
have you seen that small cell in front of the EEC right there?
The small cell in front of the EEC. What's the address, sort of? What street is that?
Uh that's Mastic. It's on Mastic. That
Oh, that's the one
uh
I'm talking about, the small cell there.
oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, you're talking about the one that's, like, real close to the VFW by Brook Park.
No, no, on 220 in Mastic if you go down in front of that school.
220 in
VFW.
Mastic. Bro, I did a video there for you, remember? I showed you the small cell I was connected to.
I don't think you posted that video, did you? Um
Yeah, man.
uh
Yeah,
oh,
I've tested that site before. I took pictures of it.
yeah.
It's on my Twitter. Yeah,
Yeah. I mean,
that's the small cell. That's the one that might be giving you a hard time. I'm not
yeah.
saying it for sure, but if you're connecting to that thing, you're far enough to where that thing could be giving you trouble.
Yeah.
So quick question. So in the cable world, whenever there's like a noise issue, right? Techs will put filters on the customers on the customer's line to stop the noise from kicking back onto the wider node. But I was wondering, in the wireless space, is there a way to filter RF so you're just getting like the cleaner signal, kind of clean it out? Like, yeah, you're going to give up throughput, but is there a way to do that to ideally provide a more consistent experience? That, like, is that even a possibility?
Scheduling maybe on on the parameters of those channels?
I mean, there's a lot of things that you could do, but I mean, primarily, I mean, you can shut that particular frequency off, or you can reduce the power on it. Those are the two. Like I said, those are the go-tos. As far as what Dennis is asking for, from a filter standpoint, yes, I mean, you could technically put a filter on, but it's a little bit more challenging to do nowadays because a lot of these antennas are dual band antennas. So there's not an antenna specifically for PCS or specifically for AWS or specifically for 850. I mean, they're dual, they're dual band. So it's a little bit more challenging to do, which is why I was saying, reduce the power, maybe change the cell priority, lower the cell priority on that particular frequency to take it out so the customers don't get on that particular band as much. Parameters like that you can change around.
Wow. Sounds like you're in a rough situation. Have you considered AT&T?
I literally
don't
asked
answer
that
that.
question.
Don't
in the
answer
video,
that.
man.
Don't answer that. Don't answer that. That was a trick question.
Who's your provider, man? Who's the home service provider?
Well, I mean, I wouldn't be really complaining to Verizon about service if we didn't have unreliable cable internet.
Who's the provider?
So the only options we have 3 options. Cox, which is really
Trash.
trashier. Right.
Trash.
And then we have BreezeLine with the outdated WoW gear, which is
Trash.
And then we have AT&T like 25 down
Oh
and like
God, here we go. DSL.
yeah.
Oh God. See, this is that bullshit, bro. His choices are trash or trash.
Yeah, but do you know how rare it is to have 2 cable choices? Can we just point that out?
Dude, Dennis, this is the same situation my parents have. You have Rectum, which is trash. You have AT&T 3 megabit DSL, which is trash. Or you can have BreezeLine, aka WoW, which is trash.
Is WoW actually that bad?
It's trash.
I feel like BreezeLine. I feel like we have BreezeLine out here in Pennsylvania as well. In fact, I think down in
I think you do.
Down in oh gosh darn it, where's my boy Dylan live? I'm pretty sure this is who he has, and he's so excited to have Comcast built out. He's been crying about it because of the price. Because they're expensive, but after promo, like really expensive. I think he's paying like $170 or something. But is it really like that bad from a performance standpoint?
I mean, my internet, so what I'm running right now is a UDMSE from Unify, and I have Cox and BreezeLine both on their top plans. And I have Cox is a failover, BreezeLine is the main WAN.
How you gonna back up the failover with the failover, bro?
I know, right? And they both go out, so we rely off cell service. And then when we rely off cell service, obviously that's trash too. So, I mean,
what the hell is WoW?
Bro, it's bad, bro. It's bad.
Is it a wireline?
Yeah,
it's cable.
Yeah. They're a regional cable provider. I think they exist in like 6 states now because they sold off a lot of their stuff.
Yeah, they sold off a lot of their stuff, but if you've seen in Florida, they're doing like 5 gig fiber now and stuff. They're really investing.
That's why I was like asking, like, are they really that bad? Like,
yeah, where they have cable, yeah.
I'm still surprised Cox is as bad as they are. Like
Cox.
Cox is just hot trash.
Bro, their fiber's already screwing up again on me.
I thought you dropped them. I thought you didn't have them anymore.
No, I have them. Because they changed it over to fiber and it was working great for like 2 months. Now it's back to the same BS again.
There you go. But Dennis, you just love you some cable providers, don't you?
I mean,
and guess what, Dennis? Guess what Cox is doing now? So there's somebody in my neighborhood that's a bastard and is using the damn internet for servers. So guess what they do to the whole neighborhood? They're punish the whole neighborhood.
Yeah, they cap your upload speeds. Yep.
So because of that bastard, I get punished when I don't use more than 1.5 tera, and this dude is using like 30 tera plus because he's running a damn server out of his house. Like, that's BS, bro.
Yo, Vin, we might have an answer for you, bro. AT&T Internet Air.
I've tried it. It's the upload speeds are like 2 megs down or
Oh,
up. Sorry, but like,
what about the T-Mobile home internet, bro?
oh, that's just megabits a second down and like kilobits up. It's horrid here.
Ha!
I mean, it still sounds better than what Verizon was. At least he had 2 meg up to not kilobits.
My bad, Sneed. My bad. I'm sorry. I'm childish. I'm sorry.
All right, so here's what we got to do, right? Here's what we got to do. We got to get you one of those Verizon LV65 joints with the antenna. We got to get that sucker outside, and then I think we can get you like 10 meg uplink.
I'll take that.
I think we got to try that, dog.
Yeah.
Can I ask alternative question?
Mm-hmm.
Have you tried having one of the cable companies come out and check your lines and get like
Bro,
a
they replaced the lines. Oh my god, they replaced the lines on a few of the lines on the telephone poles.
Have you
my house and
you-
inside my house.
Well, they replaced it inside your house, like including the wall, like behind the wall, because most cable companies don't do wall fishing.
No, we have it in our basement, the cable running from the side of the house into the basement, and that's where my rack is.
What was the have you logged into your modem to see what the actual signal levels were across the DOCSIS channels for the downstream and upstream?
I haven't done that.
Are you using a custom owned modem that you purchased like third party, like an Aris?
Yeah, it's a Netgear.
I don't know what the IP address for the Netgear admin port was off the top of my head, but if you Google search it, go into there, your power for your your power for your 3.0 channels should be plus or minus 8 for the power, if memory serves me right, or maybe it was Sinar. I don't know. You can Google search what's good, but I know it's like plus or minus 8. It's been a while since I've had cable. Plus or minus 8 is what I know you want for power, like for the power, I believe, and then I think you want your Sinar to be above like 40.
I know we use their provided modem for both providers, and then they tried to do tuning with that, but it really didn't help. So we just bought 2 Netgear modems. So
Bro,
just
so
left it.
no radio checked when I had DOCSIS before they upgraded. They ripped out the DOCSIS and put fiber in my neighborhood, and he checked all my stuff. I was perfect Sinar, perfect everything on the OM whatever OS channels or whatever. Everything was perfect. He even said we were using an extra channel, 6 instead of 5.
channel is what you're talking about.
But yeah, but at the end of the day, bro, that service is still trash.
Trash.
Just like their fiber's trash. It's all trash.
I guess I just have a hard time picturing it because, like, okay, look, I had Armstrong cable. Sneed, you know Armstrong cable, right? You're laughing because you know them. They're really expensive. They're Armstrong. I know what bad cable can be from pricing and really getting bent over the barrel and really having problems with them, because I remember for like 3 months I had a problem, and it turned out the reason was because the main line outside, the insulation around it had like basically rotted away from just being hit by the sun from on the pole, and then like the winters that we have here, water got in, etc. They finally got around to fixing it, and it was good. And then I had Comcast, which was a night and day difference. Comcast was really good. They're well maintained here, and I know what good cable looks like. And generally speaking, I've had more good cable than bad cable providers in my life. And I mean,
those are words that literally nobody has ever said, Dennis.
We all know what my Fios experience was initially, and even that's really good. Like, I haven't had any problems since I got that tech that did a good job and actually, moved my ONT inside, did what it needed to happen. I haven't had any problems with my Fios.
Dennis, what about the water buildup though at the pedestal?
But that didn't impact me. that bothered somebody else. That wasn't my problem.
Yo, I gotta ask, man, Vince, how long you been watching my content, dog?
Maybe about a year and a half.
How much of the speed testing videos and the local testing have you consumed?
A lot.
Do I cherry pick? Do I try to favor any carriers? am I creating an unrealistic representation of carrier performance in this area?
I wouldn't say so.
Yes.
I'm not saying that Cox isn't bad for you, Sneed. I'm just surprised. But also, PASP testing, maybe it's a Pennsylvania thing. Maybe it's because that's where Comcast is based out of. But
Yo, I'm
it was
hearing
pretty-
bad news out of Comcast, dog.
No,
Look, I can't say too much on air, but I've got some information, dog.
Can you?
Sneed, it was me. I said yes. And the reason why is because you keep doing that T-Mobile 5G goat crap. It's a false representation.
Wait.
It's not funny, Sneed. It's not funny, Sneed.
I'm curious about the Comcast thing. Can you text it to
Talk.
me?
Yeah, we're gonna talk, bro. We're gonna talk
because they're.
Are you going to tell the rest of the class?
They're doing their DOCSIS 4 rollout in Colorado.
Yo, it's yeah, we'll talk, bro. We'll talk.
Are you going to tell the rest of us?
I at a later time, yes.
All right.
At a later time, I will. Absolutely. Yeah.
I'm sure it can't be that bad.
It's bad.
You know what? Cable providers can eat a bag of dicks.
Jesus.
Well, Carlos, that's because you don't have Comcast, bro. You see my speeds, and they didn't
Bro,
lie.
Comcast is trash, bro.
I got over 20% of what they provisioned. Carlos, you seen the tests. It was always over 20% more than what I paid for. Am I lying, Carlos?
No, but that's the thing, though, bro. At the end, they end up doing shitty practices. Just like right now, what I'm experiencing with getting throttled because of a damn bastard neighbor.
What was my ping times?
It was fiber pings, dude, like 6s and stuff.
Yes. All I'm saying is that my experience is not made up. I have the proof. The ping was fiber ping.
Yo, shout out to Rage and Dusty, bro. The truest words ever spoken or typed in a live chat, straight up.
Yep.
I mean, look, I got Verizon Fios. I also say it's very reliable. As I said, I haven't had any complaints after what needed to be fixed was fixed. Have I complained about my Fios since it's been fixed? B died. Okay. Well, anyway.
Wait, who was the one who said they had Cox fiber?
No, I didn't hear you.
Oh, Carlos in Vegas.
I said no, Dennis. No, Dennis. I said you have not. You have not made any complaints.
Yep. And I'll continue to be that way. Although, did I tell you guys on the panel what happened when I got home from my vacation?
No.
So
no, you just told us about the vacation, but you didn't tell us what happened when you got back.
Oh yeah. So the day I walked in, like literally the day I walked in, I was greeted with no internet service. But,
oh shit.
But the reason for it was because Verizon took my payment method off of autopay and didn't charge the card. So they suspended my service.
No notification?
No notification. They suspended my service. I had to call them.
So Dennis, was it Zero Cool? He brought up the $120 plan. Don was saying if they do a $120 plan, it's going to need unlimited high-speed hotspot.
That was already something that existed with OnePlus. So bringing back something they took away, I got it.
Yeah.
I'm not paying them $120.
I was gonna say, honestly, like legitimately speaking, I think the market has spoken on what they're willing to pay for a single line. Like without a device, like the market has spoken, and I don't think you can justify over $100 is really hard to justify now. Like this is not like 2007 where we had those ridiculous price plans. Like I just don't see it happening. Like no network is worth more than $100 for a single line. No network, not AT&T.
I don't agree with that.
Verizon, not T-Mobile. For a monthly cost for a plan.
I don't agree with that.
You would pay over $100 for one line with Verizon?
Absolutely. If the network is there, if the content is there, I mean, yeah, absolutely.
Oh,
listen, Sneed, I'm sorry, but this is what I have to say. Unless that network was sucking my dick, it is not worth over $100.
Yo, this is the after hours, bro.
So What's the incentive then for carriers to continue to improve the networks if people are going to cap themselves at $100? Then why wouldn't the carriers just cap the performance?
Because
Like, it doesn't make no sense.
Because here's the truth. As you already touched on earlier, consumer use cases are ever going to increase. Data usage is going to continue to increase as new applications and new services become available. The network that stops building and improving is the network that will start bleeding customers immediately as the consumers will move to the network that satisfies their needs. Case in point, look at T-Mobile failed merger with AT&T. They had Edge 2G. That's all they had. And they were losing customers, never growing a penny. They didn't start growing until they started investing in the network and actually getting a competent LTE network going, thanks to AT&T having to give over spectrum and money from that failed merger, and then multiple stimulus packages. Sprint.
Well, there are ways.
Hold on.
Go ahead. I apologize.
Sprint is another example of a network that just floundered because they really screwed the pooch during the LTE era. It came to bite them. Their network was very inconsistently deployed. I mean, they had a couple markets towards the end where they had the Spark going and all that jazz, but it didn't matter because they just kind of never finished a rollout, and they were really behind because of the poor decisions of WiMAX, and they couldn't meet consumer needs. And so Sprint went the way of the dodo bird. If any network just decided to say, nope, 5G is good enough, no more build outs, it would just be a repeat saga of what happened to Sprint and early T-Mobile. And unfortunately, there's not enough competitors to make another magical stimulus happen to save someone.
I don't think that's necessarily true. You don't have to create a new technology in order to be able to appease continued demand on a network. You just have to do a really good job of maintaining the network that you have, and just continue to build, additional access points. There are ways around creating another technology.
So B, why don't we still have 3G? Why didn't Verizon just keep building towers for 3G?
Because the consumer at the time didn't say, I'm capping myself at X amount of dollars. In fact, people paid more for 3G than they are for 5G right now. So that's the answer. Because the consumer didn't say what you just said.
Why are we not still investing in LTE?
The same answer I just gave.
But consumers consumers are paying less for 5G than they are for LTE.
That's correct.
Okay. So why aren't we investing in LTE? We were able to charge more.
The consumer during the 3G era wasn't saying what you're saying now. Like the companies will continue to build as long as the ability to be able to increase the revenues and everything is there.
No.
But as far as
the consumer did say what I was saying right now. That's why prices went down. They spoke with their wallets. They said, no, we're not going to pay for this and switch to something cheaper, and forced the other competitors to lower prices and make plans more attractive. And then part of the reason why plans were able to become more affordable to consumers is because as the generational changes occurred, the cost to offer a gig went down for the carriers. Like a gig today is significantly cheaper than a gig was back in 3G to the carrier at a wholesale cost rate.
And customers have benefited from that, but that doesn't mean that capping what a carrier can charge will be incentivizing them to continue rolling out newer technologies. I mean, I'm not sure. I mean, the industry's already talking about it globally. I mean, they're searching around for ways to be able to increase profitability, increase revenue in a more meaningful way, because the only people or the only industries that are really making the huge amounts of money off of each technology jump are the over-the-top providers. The telco industry is kind of getting left behind as far as that's concerned. Like Apple and all those guys are making all of the money. The Netflixes and all these other, content providers are making all the money. Telco is not nearly as much. So, I mean, these types of conversations are already being had. There's no reason to continue to roll this stuff out every decade. If consumers are going to say, oh, well, we're not going to pay. All right, well, then I guess we'll just slow down innovation is what they'll say. Yeah, it's already being discussed.
we've had this debate before. The over-the-top providers are benefiting more. If it wasn't for the over-the-top providers, there wouldn't be the justification for people to pay what they pay for internet today, right?
It's not necessarily true. It's a symbiotic relationship. The over-the-top providers have the ability to be able to do what they're doing because the technology was implemented, and they were given the ability to be able to, of course, create over top of that technology. So it's a symbiotic relationship.
Telco wouldn't see the girth that they have today if it wasn't for those over-top providers.
And the over-the-top providers wouldn't exist without those technologies. It's a symbiotic relationship. Dennis.
I'm not saying it's not a symbiotic relationship, but what I'm trying. Please let me just finish my piece. The telco providers wouldn't be able to justify what they charge, and the demand wouldn't be as high if it wasn't for the over-the-top providers existing. It is by the nature of the fact that the over-the-top providers are a value-adding service because of the fact that the over-the-top providers are a value-adding service, it makes sense that they're generating a little bit more revenue than the telco provider, because those over-the-top services have multiple ways in which they can monetize the customer over the telco provider, who's essentially providing dumb pipes for all intents and purposes. It's just a lane to do something, right? It's like a highway. A highway becomes more valuable when there's actual destinations and off ramps. Those over the top providers are those off ramps. Now you can say how they wouldn't exist if the highway didn't exist, because you'd be dealing with congestion if there was just dirt roads to try to get there, and that's true. But if we're talking about who gets more of the pie, it makes perfect sense, because Verizon and any telco can be, what they're doing can easily be replaced with another telco that wants to lay down that infrastructure. It's not a unique piece of exclusive content. It's not it's not a unique new experience, right? It's just facilitating an end goal. That's what it's doing. They are facilitating what the actual thing is that the end user wants to do. Nothing more, nothing less.
I think two things can be true. I tend to lean more towards what I said before, which is that it's a symbiotic relationship whereby many of these over-the-top providers wouldn't even exist without those quote-unquote dumb pipes. There was no Netflix before LTE. So you have to, there has to be a way to be able to have more meaningful balance from a revenue standpoint. Otherwise, there's dwindling return on investment for all of this capacity. 5 years ago, there was no gigabit speed. There was no talk of that. That wasn't even thought about. And so here we are today with gigabit speeds. And you just said you wouldn't even pay $120 for it. So what's to incentivize the continued investment in innovation?
Well,
for if you want better performance, it just doesn't make sense.
Well, there's two things I want to say, B. One, a private company can charge whatever they want, but it doesn't mean consumers will bite. Verizon could charge $1,000 for one line, but it doesn't mean they're going to have anybody biting for one line pricing on that. That's the first part. The second part I'll just say, and this is the important part, it goes back to the experience piece, right? The mobile phone market is very saturated in the US. There's not a lot of upwards pressure that they can do to justify more for that plan or that line. The thing that Verizon and carriers need to do is find other ways to generate revenue from their deployment to get the continued growth, but they're not going to see it from the mobile space with their current mindset or with their current plan offerings, right? There's just nothing. There's nothing there.
Well, I think they've tried. I think they've tried, but we've spoken ad nauseum about the attempts. The attempts have been futile. They haven't found that thing yet. They tried to become their own.
The thing will come on its own. There's a saying. What is it? Lay it down and they shall come, or whatever that saying is. If all the carrier should be doing right now is just focusing on deploying the infrastructure, so that when that next thing does come, they're there to take advantage of the opportunity. What that next
that's
big
what
thing is, we don't know. But
that's what I think. At least AT&T and Verizon. That's what I think those two companies are doing. And I think also they've tried in the past. They've tried to step outside of their normal, core business in order to find new ways to, produce additional revenues and additional streams of revenues. It's challenging to do because of how Capex sensitive the telco industry is. Like it costs a lot of money to build and maintain these networks. So it's hard to pivot or to, have your finances in more than one area because of just how expensive it is to do what it is that they do, network wise. So
Do you wanna
it's
know-
challenging.
Do you want to know what I think would be a good money opportunity that I feel like is not fully leveraged? The military. Like literally, maybe one of the telco companies should look at getting into military applications. Design some
they already
product
do.
that gets design a product, like an actual product that like actually gets like a military contract and gets like used literally like everywhere, like a guaranteed like 10-year buy up of whatever that product is, or some long-term service that isn't just traditional like infrastructure, like actually offer a product. Like I don't know, like in the same way we've seen like what's an example? There's some company out there, they're a startup company. They've been making these like really cheap submarines for Australia. They're like self-driving and they're cheap to make and like you can control them remotely. They're like way tinier than like your typical sub from your typical like Lockheed Martin or someone else that's like designing it, right? Maybe AT&T, Verizon, or T-Mobile should take a crack at doing something. I don't know what it is, but something that leverages their infrastructure and is actually like a useful product for military applications. Maybe it's for police. Maybe it's for the police force. Maybe it's like well, now we're getting into freedom and stuff, but maybe it's something for the police force to do their jobs better, right? Maybe it's something to do with like a drone fleet. I don't know. Some type of like 24/7 like aerial drone imagery that they can control through the network. I don't know what it is, but like offer some product that goes along with the network. Make the use case.
A 5G powered bomb disposal robot.
Yeah, there you go. That's something.
Bro, why don't they just start going after these apps, bro? I'm fair for game, bro. I think they need to go after like Netflix and all that, start charging them, bro. Like keep track of the carriers know how to keep track of the data that you use. So if they see that all this consumption, then they charge them a certain rate. Screw it.
Don't you see
That's how-
what
that's how it
Investors are
works.
not gonna like that, man.
I
Well,
don't care, bro.
I mean,
That's how shit
honestly-
works in America, bro.
Well,
Look at this,
I mean-
bro. Nothing's free in America. Nothing's free in America.
Honestly,
well,
Lowe's.
guys,
Lowe's, you're not far off, man. You're not far off. I'll just put it that
Have you
way.
seen-
You're not far off, man.
I know. I already saw the documents of what you're talking about.
well,
And
guys,
I hope they do it.
well, guys, this just in from the president of the SMT community. It has been a joyous show. We've made it to the 2 hour and 26 minute mark. We talked about many good topics. I want to let everyone know that's watching right now. Make sure you're thumbsing up, supporting that coffee crew, and thank you for the support to the Sneed man himself. But this is the sign-off cue that I've been given, and I wish you all a great night.
Thank you, guys. We'll see you on Friday for the Friday show. Big shout out to EM Tech, Southwest Ohio Speed Testing, and Green. Appreciate the super chats. Big shout out to all the members and supporters on Patreon. Of course, the subscribers, viewers, and everybody who gives the videos ratings, shares, and likes, and all those things, and is active in the community. Thank you guys for all that you do. My panel, Donald, Los, Vince, B, Dennis, somebody was here earlier. Zero Cool. Thank you guys for coming on. We'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.